Good day, folks. I'm back from Turkey, another strongman state democracy like India. Erdogan, big flags, NATO, but a lot of stuff happening around the world. The first is the crisis in Israel, as I see, right? A lot of people are overlooking it. Domestic turbulence caused by Netanyahu's attempt to change the judiciary and the law system resulted in street protests. And just say, hey, all of a sudden there seems to be an external threat and a sudden issue with Palestine, bombs into Palestine, and Israel going after Lebanon. Too much of a coincidence, reminds me of Pulwama, but hey, who is to say? Next, you have China out there playing this big master role. People are saying the U.S. is out of U.S.'s declining power, but the U.S. has sent a nuclear sub into the Middle East. U.S. has got its carrier fleet in Taiwan. Size being hosted by the Speaker of the House in the U.S. And over China, prickly pants is out there with 71 jets and surrounding Taiwan Island, etc., etc. But hey, what does she have, right, really? Then you have Iran and Saudi Arabia, foreign minister meeting first time on foreign territory. You have India declining the request of Pakistan and China not to have a tourist G20 meet in Kashmir. Great stuff, even in Arunachal. So a lot of stuff happening all across the world, and domestic politics all over is in turmoil, right? So you have this rebalance of power by Shyam Saran, which makes a lot of sense, right? It says China-Russia partnership signals a shift in geopolitical equations that has implications for India. He says China is no longer a neutral party in the Ukraine crisis. It is firmly in Russia's corner. This is an important shift in geopolitical equations. It also gives China much greater leverage over Russia and on the latter's capacity to pursue independent relations with other states such as India. China now has the capacity to limit Russia's engagement with India, including in defense. This must now enter our foreign policy and security calculations. But how does it do that when we are so entwined in terms of trade and personal relationships at the top with China, right? Russia is clearly the junior partner in the Sino-Russian strategic partnership by compulsion, if not by choice. And it says Chinese energy security is enhanced through a long-term energy partnership with Russia, and this is also the important driver of the strategic partnership. Then he says, having announced an unprecedented close partnership with Russia, any defeat of Russia in the war would be a major setback to China. China cannot let Russia be defeated though it may acquiesce to a stalemate or low-intensity war. Figure that, right? Its latest foreign policy strategy document, Russia has described China and India as its two allies. In the case of India, this may be more a case of visual thinking. Let's hope so. And what does Sriram Cholia writes? India-Russia ties are facing a long-term conundrum. He says it also recommits to comprehensive deepening of ties and enhancement of coordination with friendly sovereign global centers of power, namely China and India, and presents these two Asian countries as key Russians' quest to overturn the unfair Western-made international system. Ain't gonna happen. Well, let's hope so anyway. The problem here is that Putin wishes to club China and India together as part of a united front to counterbalance the West, but Beijing and New Delhi have their own distinct policies that do not coincide with Moscow's worldview. India's economic and military ties with the US, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Australia are booming. India wants to leverage its Western partnerships to push back against China's expansionism. The new Russian concept document says that Moscow will work with New Delhi to develop resistance to destructive actions of unfriendly states and their alliances, which suggests China believes Western powers are unfriendly and necessary for India's rise. Russia, on the other hand, has been the reason for India's not rising. The fundamental Russian misreading here is that it assumes China to be a benign and non-hegemonic actor, an assessment that India does not share. In light of these intensifying fault lines in Eurasia, as well as the economic, technological, and military degradation of Russia due to Western sanctions imposed since the Ukraine war, how can Russia and India sustain their special and privileged strategic partnership in the future? They just can't, right? Yet, given this enlarging geostrategic cracks, it is obvious that Moscow's dream of a joint Russia-China-RIC axis to counter the West is wobbling. To paraphrase Kautilya, the master of Indian geopolitics, my enemy's enemy is my friend. If China is India's enemy, what exactly is Russia going to mean for India in time to come? We cannot shy away from reckoning with this question, at least in the long term. And as we say this, India, Russia, and talks to attract Indian employees is involved, and just not going to happen when you have opportunities such as the US and Canada all opening up. Nobody really wants to go to Russia where you're looked down upon. US Secretary in unscheduled meet with PMs. The US Secretary is also kind of worried and is out there to meet us. And then what does India do with this? Ukraine Deputy Foreign Minister likely to visit India next week. This is an important visit, and as Raja Mohan writes, dividing and ruling the West. That's what Russia and China hope to do, but Ukraine invasion has cemented US-Europe unity. This is what China must read and understand, and everybody here should also see, right? The Sino-Russian dream of building a post-Western order has resonance in many parts of the world, including in Delhi, but the Indian strategic community should not hold its breath. The fault lines within the West are real, but they are by no means fatal. If Moscow's focus is on America's political fractures, Beijing is deploying China's market power to undermine Washington's strategy. China's love for Europe's strategic autonomy is equally passionate, much like Beijing's enthusiasm for Delhi's non-alignment. That's what it's for. A great play, right? The Sino-European engagement circles around two issues. Europe wants Xi to put pressure on Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Beijing would like Europe to distance itself from US on its China policy. It is unlikely there will be a decisive movement on either issue, but both sides see a diplomatic dance as a valuable exercise. Europe is not ready to buy China's so-called peace initiative on Ukraine, as EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell put it in last Friday. China can't be a mediator in the Ukraine war because China does not distinguish between the aggressor and the victim. And there you have it, folks. So many good articles. I'm hoping everybody's read. I've pulled out the most important parts there. But folks, lots happening. But India, so far, has come out unscathed. The only thing, in my view, that will upset this apple cart is our domestic politics. It's our domestic politics and how we are not being able to take on China and name and shame it. How we are not being able to call out Russia, and both of this is more because of domestic politics, folks, than anything else. Cheers and Jai Hind.